We like to think of ourselves as the intelligent species, the rational ones, the apex of evolution. But then you look at our laws about animals, and you realize we've completely lost the plot. Somewhere between protecting wildlife and writing legal code, humanity took a very sharp left turn into absolute insanity. We've created rules about drunk elephants, legally married dolphins, and penguins wearing sweaters. This is where logic goes to die. We've hunted down 25 of the most jaw-droppingly stupid, hilariously bizarre, and completely unhinged animal laws ever written. These aren't urban legends, these are real rules that real governments actually enforced. Buckle up. This is going to make you question everything. 1. In the United Kingdom, it's illegal to be drunk in charge of a cow. Not drunk while riding a cow. Not drunk while milking a cow. Just drunk near a cow that you're technically in charge of. The Licensing Act of 1872 is very specific about this. If you're intoxicated and you happen to be supervising cattle, you can be fined or even arrested. This creates an amazing scenario where you can stumble out of a pub at 2 a.m., completely hammered, and as long as you don't make eye contact with Bessie in the field next door, you're legally in the clear. But the moment you acknowledge responsibility for that cow, criminal. The law was designed to prevent drunk farmers from causing chaos on public roads, but the wording is so perfect in its absurdity that it's still technically enforceable today. Imagine explaining to your cellmate that you're in for aggravated cow supervision while under the influence. 2. The country of Norway has an official regulation requiring that all polar bears in captivity must be provided with adequate entertainment. This isn't a suggestion. It's part of their Animal Welfare Act. Zoo officials must demonstrate that their polar bears have environmental enrichment that prevents boredom. This means toys, puzzles, and activities. So, somewhere in Norway, there's a government official whose actual job is to evaluate whether a polar bear is having enough fun. There are probably reports, performance reviews for bear entertainment coordinators, budget meetings about polar bear amusement expenses. It's bureaucracy meets Arctic wildlife, and honestly, it's kind of wholesome. 3. In Minnesota, it is illegal to tease a skunk. A specific state statute makes it a misdemeanor to harass, pursue, hunt, or shoot at skunks in a way that constitutes teasing. The beautiful thing about this law is the word tease, not harm, not kill, tease. This means the state of Minnesota has legally drawn a line and said, look, if you want to have a respectful interaction with a skunk, that's your business. But the moment you start making fun of it, we have a problem. What does teasing a skunk even look like? Are you mocking its stripes? Making jokes about its defensive spray mechanism? The law doesn't specify, which means it's entirely up to law enforcement to determine whether your behavior crossed the line from simple skunk acknowledgement to full-blown skunk bullying. 4. The city of Venice, Italy, famously has a law that bans feeding pigeons in St. Mark's Square. The fine can be up to $500. Now that sounds reasonable. Pigeons are a nuisance. They spread disease. They destroy historical monuments with their acidic droppings. Smart law, except the city also passed a law that allows licensed vendors to sell pigeon food to tourists in the exact same square. So let me get this straight. You can be fined $500 for feeding pigeons, but you can also legally purchase official pigeon food from the city. The only rule is that you can't actually give it to the pigeons. This is legislative performance art. It's a law designed to generate revenue from confused tourists who buy the seed, get immediately fined, and then spend the rest of their vacation wondering if they've entered some kind of bureaucratic nightmare dimension. The city collects money on both ends. It's genius and infuriating in equal measure. 5. In the Australian state of Victoria, only licensed electricians are legally allowed to change a light bulb. Now you're probably thinking that's not an animal law, and you'd be right. Except the law has a specific exemption. If you're changing the bulb in a chicken coop or animal enclosure, it doesn't require a license. So to recap, changing a light bulb in your human home? That's a job for a certified professional. Changing a light bulb in a building full of chickens? Go wild. No training required. Australia has legally determined that electrical work around livestock is less dangerous than electrical work around people. The chickens are on their own. So far, we've seen drunk cow supervision, polar bear entertainment committees, and skunk anti-bullying legislation. Which one has broken your brain the most? The nation of Switzerland has more laws protecting the dignity of animals than most countries have protecting the dignity of humans. Their Animal Welfare Act includes a provision that makes it illegal to keep social animals like guinea pigs, parrots, or goldfish in isolation. They must have companions. But here's where it gets weird. The law also states that animals have a right to their dignity. Not comfort, not safety. Dignity. This has led to legal debates about whether flushing a live goldfish down the toilet violates its constitutional right to dignified treatment. Courts have actually ruled on this. There have been appeals. Legal precedent has been established about the self-respect of fish. Switzerland looked at the concept of animal rights and said, you know what? Let's take this to its absolute philosophical extreme and see what happens. What happened is that you can go to jail for emotionally humiliating your pet. 7. In the town of Boulder, Colorado, you don't have pets. You have companion animals. And you're not an owner. You're a guardian. This isn't just semantics. It's official city terminology, written into municipal code in 2000. The idea was to shift the perception of animals from property to family members. It's actually quite progressive and thoughtful. But it also means that Boulder has legally banned the concept of pet ownership and replaced it with a term that makes it sound like every dog owner is a court-appointed legal representative for a small furry defendant. Your Honor, I'm here on behalf of my client, Mr. Whiskers. He maintains that the food bowl was unfairly empty and seeks compensation in the form of tuna. 8. In 2003, India granted dolphins the status of non-human persons and banned their captivity entirely. This is remarkable. The Ministry of Environment and Forests declared that dolphins have specific rights as individuals, including the right to life and liberty. No aquariums, no shows, no captive breeding. But here's the twist. They made this decision based on research showing that dolphins have self-awareness, complex social structures, and emotional intelligence, which raises an uncomfortable question. If we're granting personhood based on intelligence and emotional capacity, where's the line? Elephants have been shown to mourn their dead. Octopuses solve puzzles. Crows hold grudges and use tools. India opened a philosophical can of worms by legally recognizing that intelligence exists on a spectrum and some animals deserve rights traditionally reserved for humans. It's brilliant. It's progressive, and it's terrifying for anyone who's ever eaten calamari. 9. The city of Turin, Italy, passed a law in 2005 that makes it illegal to turn a goldfish bowl into a spherical shape. The reasoning? Curved glass distorts the fish's view of the outside world, causing them psychological stress. So Turin looked at all the problems facing modern urban society, pollution, traffic, housing shortages, and decided the most pressing issue was the mental health impact of bowl geometry on goldfish. They also made it illegal to give away goldfish as carnival prizes, which is actually pretty reasonable. But the bowl thing? That's the city government legislating the interior design choices of fish. 10. In South Africa, it's illegal to wrestle a bear. Which makes sense. Bears are dangerous, but the law doesn't stop there. It also makes it illegal to box a kangaroo. Now, South Africa doesn't have native kangaroos. They're from Australia. So why does a South African law specifically mention them? Because in the early 1900s, there was a traveling circus that featured a boxing kangaroo as its main attraction. People would pay to step into the ring and fight a kangaroo wearing tiny boxing gloves. The kangaroo always won. Not because it was trained, because kangaroos have a natural fighting style that involves grabbing you with their front paws and then disemboweling you with their back claws. After several hospitalizations, South Africa decided to shut down the entire concept of marsupial combat sports. The law remains on the books to this day, protecting both humans and kangaroos from engaging in a fight neither species asked for. We're 10 laws deep, and we've covered goldfish dignity, dolphin personhood, and kangaroo boxing. Here's a question. If you had to defend one of these laws in court, which one would you choose and why? Drop your legal arguments in the comments. 11. In Denmark, you're legally required to attempt resuscitation on a dog before taking it to a veterinarian. If your dog is unconscious or not breathing, and you drive straight to the vet without first performing CPR, you can technically be charged with animal neglect. This law assumes that every Danish citizen has been trained in canine cardiopulmonary resuscitation and can calmly perform chest compressions on their dying pet, instead of, panicking and rushing to the nearest professional. It's a law written by someone who has clearly never experienced the absolute chaos of a pet emergency. 12. The United Kingdom has a law that makes it illegal to import Polish potatoes. You're probably wondering why that's in a video about animal laws. Because the same act, the Import of Potatoes Act, also makes it illegal to import live rabies. Let me repeat that. There is a British law that categorizes potatoes and rabies in the same legal document, as if they're equivalent threats to national security. Somewhere, a bureaucrat sat down and thought, you know what we need to protect Britain from? Tubers and infectious diseases, in that order. The rabies part makes sense. The UK has been rabies-free since the early 1900s and wants to keep it that way. But the potatoes? That's just agricultural protectionism, dressed up as public safety. But the fact that they're in the same law creates the incredible mental image of a customs agent at Heathrow Airport, opening a suitcase, finding a bag of Polish spuds and a rabid raccoon, and saying, right, both of these are equally illegal. You're nicked. 13. In 2015, the country of New Zealand legally recognized animals as sentient beings. This sounds progressive until you realize it was already illegal to abuse animals. The new law didn't change penalties or enforcement. It just added a philosophical statement to the legal code. So what changed? Legally, nothing. Philosophically, everything. New Zealand looked at its animals and said, we acknowledge you have feelings, and then continued doing exactly what it was already doing. It's the legislative equivalent of saying, I see you to your cat, and then going back to scrolling on your phone. 14. The city of Reykjavik, Iceland, banned stripping in 2010. Not because of morality. Because they said it was exploitative to workers. What does this have to do with animals? The same law banned the use of animals in any form of adult entertainment. Which raises so many questions. Was this a problem in Iceland? Were there establishments that needed to be told, hey, maybe leave the animals out of this? The law is so specific that it suggests there was at least one incident that prompted someone to stand up in city council and say, we need to address the animal situation at the strip clubs. And everyone else nodded and agreed, because apparently that was a thing that needed legislative attention. Iceland is consistently ranked as one of the happiest, most progressive countries on Earth. And yet, somewhere in its recent history, animal-involved, adult entertainment was enough of a concern that they had to write it into law. 15. In the state of Oregon, USA, it's illegal to use canned corn as bait when fishing for salmon. The law is incredibly specific. Fresh corn? Totally fine. Frozen corn? No problem. But the moment that corn has been canned, it becomes a prohibited fishing substance. The reason is equal parts science and absurdity. Canned corn apparently works too well as salmon bait. The fish love it. They can't resist it. It's the fishing equivalent of performance-enhancing drugs. So, Oregon's Department of Fish and Wildlife looked at the situation and decided that canned corn gave anglers an unfair advantage over the salmon. They leveled the playing field by banning a vegetable. This means there's a black market for canned corn among Oregon fishermen. Somewhere, there's a guy in a dark alley whispering, "Psst, I got that green giant. Real Del Monte stuff." Fresh off the truck? The war on drugs has nothing on the war. Are you team ban the canned corn or team let the salmon take their chances? And more importantly, what other foods should be illegal to use as bait? Sound off below. 16. In 2013, a court in India granted the Ganges River the same legal rights as a human being. Rivers aren't animals, but wait for it. The same year they granted legal personhood status to all animals in the state of Uttarakhand. This means that animals in that region can technically sue. Obviously, they need human representatives, but legally, the animal is the plaintiff. There have been cases where lawyers have argued on behalf of mistreated elephants, with the elephant listed as the primary party seeking damages. India has created a legal system where you can be sued by a cow and lose.